This is from about 2 weeks ago, but I don't care because I want to talk about it with you guys. And it's a leaked memo from the New York Times about them censoring their reporters, right? Under the guise of a style guide, okay? So essentially what happened is that this was leaked to the Intercept. It's an internal memo telling people at the New York Times not to use the word Palestine, okay? So the New York Times instructed journalists covering Israel's war on the Gaza Strip to restrict the use of the terms genocide, ethnic cleansing, and to avoid using the phrase occupied territory when describing Palestinian land. The memo also instructs reporters not to use the word Palestine, except in very rare cases, and to steer clear of the term refugee camps to describe areas of Gaza historically settled by displaced Palestinians expelled from other parts of Palestine during previous Israeli-Arab wars. And this was written by Susan Wessling, and also by Philip Pan and their deputies. I mean, when I read this, to me, this is beyond journalistic malpractice. This is genocide denial. You know, this is the equivalent of denying the Holocaust, without question. Make no mistake, because they are trying to erase Palestine, and to do this in the collective conscience. So they're saying don't even use the word Palestine. Well, why don't you just go and cover the sports then? You know, you can cover the Euro Cup. Why do you even bother talking about this? What the fuck? How can you talk about what's happening in Palestine and you don't mention Palestine? Even the Israelis, they say Palestinian. How are you not saying Palestinian? I mean, this is beyond scandalous. Refugee camps. Why don't you want to mention refugee camps? Because the truth is not good. The truth doesn't look good for Israel. Because when you understand, and again, I'll pull up the map so you can see it with your own eyes. When you understand that 70% of people in Gaza, okay, look at this tiny strip of land over here. This tiny strip of land. 70% of the people here do not come from Gaza originally. They come from other parts of Palestine, okay? But they had their homes stolen from them at various points since 1948, and then they had to come to Gaza. And so now what the Israelis are doing is they're trying to kill off those people so they can't come back and reclaim the land. You see, Palestinians, they have refugee status, and their children have refugee status, and their grandchildren have refugee status. So it's inalienable, right? If someone is a Palestinian today and their grandparents are, they passed away, they can still, under international law, go and reclaim the land. And there's about 6 million people in total. So you understand why the Israelis are trying to kill off everybody in Gaza, because they want the land, first of all, for the resources. And they also want to make sure no one can come back inside Palestine and take their land under international law. And so the New York Times are contributing to this genocide by telling reporters not to use the word Palestine. I mean, this is really, really disgusting. And also restricting the use of terms genocide and ethnic cleansing and occupied territory. How can you talk about Palestine without these terms? How can you do that? Even people at the New York Times are stunned by this, and they're not allowed to say it out loud because they'll get fired. So they've told the Intercept at various points in the article. You can see they express how ridiculous it is. Okay, so let me show you one quote, for example, here. It says, "I think it's the kind of thing that looks professional, logical if you have no knowledge of the historical context of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. But if you do know, it will be clear how apologetic it is to Israel." And again, apologetic is an understatement. This goes beyond journalistic malpractice. It really does. It's scandalous. It's really scandalous. They're so afraid of people finding out what's happening in Palestine. Why did this war start? Why are there refugees? Why is this land called occupied and that one isn't? Where did the refugees come from? Why are there so many of them in Gaza? Oh, they're refugees because Israelis stole their homes? Oh, that's why. Now this makes sense, right? And of course, the homes here that are outside the Gaza Strip, right here, the ones that were attacked on October 7th. Remember that the Palestinians, they didn't attack homes that belong to Israelis. They attack their own houses that have been stolen from them. Do you understand this concept? If someone steals your house and then you attack the house, you're just trying to take back your house. What difference does it make if the person who stole it is white, black, green, purple, Jewish, Buddhist? Who gives a shit? Do you want the house because it's yours, or just because, you know, you're a racist? I mean, what kind of jump is this? Obviously, you want the damn house because it's your house, because it belonged to your parents or your grandparents, because you are stateless and you live as a refugee in a camp. Obviously, you want your fucking house back. No, it's terrorism. You know, I think terrorism is stealing people's houses and putting them in a camp. That's what I think terrorism is. So the New York Times is really a rag. I wouldn't wipe my ass with it. It's a rag. It's a disgusting toe rag. As a matter of fact, it is so contemptuous and just scummy that I regret even bringing it up. Right? Obviously, I had to tell you about this, but they're not even worth the few minutes that I have taken to explain this to you because of how disgusting they are. This is beyond journalistic malpractice. It is genocide denial on an unbelievable scale. An unbelievable scale. You can't say you didn't know or you're ignorant. This is malfeasance, right? This is malfeasant, without question, malfeasant. And not to mention, of course, this nonsense with the systematic rape. You know, they published that nonsense as well. That came from the New York Times. Zero evidence to this day, right? What is the date today? We're 1st of May. There is not one shred of evidence, photographic, forensic, nothing, zero, of any rape on October 7th. None. And as a matter of fact, I would submit to you, what does that have to do with Palestinians taking back their houses? So if, let's say, for example, one person was raped, does that mean the resistance movement has to go? There's no more national liberation? Colonialism is all right? What does this have to do with anything? Their lies are so dumb and stupid. You really have to be a zombie to believe them. And the problem is they make you a zombie by, you know, drilling this crap into your head with the TV stations, the radio, the printing press. It's an effort by all of them. And make no mistake, this is just because we know we happen to have this memo from the New York Times. But I know for a fact, and I'm telling you, those other news networks, they do the same thing. I've always complained to you. I've always, like, we'll go through an article and I will stop at various points in the same sentence to point out the language, right? Right? How they're obfuscating or they're changing the word entirely to you know, give you an entirely different meaning and perspective on what is happening. It's propaganda, right? It's propaganda. Again, YouTube demonetized my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. You know, telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.